A busy life keeps a body busy with so many same old things to do.
Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and today's episode is the first of a two-part podcast talking about 3 Wind in the Willows TV specials plus a movie. This started out as an idea to talk about the 2 specials that Mark Brown had seen as a kid, The Adventures of Mole from 1995 and The Adventures of Toad from 1996. But then as I started researching these specials, I realized that not only were there actually 3 specials, there was also a Christmas special from 1994 called Mole's Christmas, but they had also been recut and repackaged as a movie. So we'll talk about that whole choice next week, after we talk about The Adventures of Toad. This week we'll be talking about The Adventures of Mole, but before we get to that, we'll first talk about the special that sort of kicked off this series, inexplicably the one that canonically takes place between this week's and next week's specials, Mole's Christmas.
A busy life keeps a body busy if you never take the time.
So I feel like we talked about recording episodes on The Adventures of Mole and The Adventures of Toad like years ago.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
But I don't remember why we decided on these 2. Were these ones you had seen before?
I had seen these before. These were 2 that my library had them on VHS a lot, and I would borrow them a lot.
Okay.
In particularly the Toad one. The Mole one I kind of thought was boring, so I probably only saw that once before rewatching it for our podcast. But Toad I borrowed a lot, and I really, really, really liked that one.
Okay. That makes sense. It is better than the Mole one.
I'm glad that we all agree.
And then this is something that I feel has changed significantly because as I actually started researching for the Wind in the Willow series, I realized that it wasn't just The Adventures of Mole and The Adventures of Toad. There was also a Christmas special called Mole's Christmas, and then a movie that was an American re-edit of these 2 specials that didn't include any part of Mole's Christmas, which I kind of expected it to, but it did not.
Did it not? I thought it did have. Well, I can't remember.
No, because yeah, well, we'll get into it when we get there. I feel like even though let's start with Mole's Christmas, even though that starts in the middle, because they made this one first. For whatever reason, I cannot figure out why they would want this to be the first thing that they do. The way they did it is very standalone, but also it doesn't feel good enough to be a standalone Christmas special. But allegedly, at least according to what I was reading online, this is one of the most exported UK-made Christmas specials for that time period. Apparently, it's been exported to 213 countries. And I'm like, why?
Maybe that was the only one that was available at that time.
I don't know.
I hope there weren't a lot more, and this was the best that they had.
I don't know. Well, all of these were made by Martin Gates Productions, and I don't really know much about Martin Gates, but from what I've read, he directed a bunch of cheap animated features based on public domain works. So I have a feeling that eventually I'll find more by him to cover for future stories if I get to other stories that he has covered. It looked like he had a bunch, so I don't know. He's somebody that is not well known today because I think most of his stuff ended up in the Dollar General bin.
Yeah. You probably figured out more knowledge about that than I did. Marvin Gates.
Well, watching this, I don't know how you feel it's held up to your childhood memories, but watching this, I could tell that this was something from the bargain bin.
Well, Mole's Christmas and Mole, The Adventure of Mole, I definitely would. They're not the best of the best, but I still like Toad a lot. And when we get to talk about The Adventures of Toad, I'll say more. But when I think of Wind in the Willows a lot, the images from The Adventure of Toad are what come into my mind. The voices of these characters come into my mind, and a lot of the scenes come into my mind. I think of this more than I think of Disney's Wind in the Willows from The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, or any other version of Wind in the Willows. But yeah,
Hmm.
Mole's Christmas and Adventure of Mole. If I never saw them again, I'd be fine.
I feel like really the only saving grace for these is the cast. The voices are actually pretty good.
No, in my opinion, the voices are amazing, and in my opinion, this has probably the best voices of anything in the history of animation, in my opinion, particularly of Rat and Badger. I love Richard Briers as Rat, and I love Paul Eddington as Badger. Up to this day, when I think of Rat or I think of Badger, those are the voices that come to my head. And I
Hmm.
think I would rank them up there among the echelon of like, Robert Williams as the genie or Mel Blanc or whatever you want to put as the top animated performances in anything animation. I would put those two up there, definitely.
I guess I wouldn't say it that high, but they were good.
Fair,
But
fair
that
enough.
also probably has to do with the fact that you grew up with this one and I did not.
That's true. I could have nostalgic. I don't know. I definitely have nostalgic factor. But they're all good. Like you said, like even Hugh Laurie as Toad is good. And
Yeah, I
even
really
that,
liked him as Toad and Peter
yeah.
Davidson as Mole.
Exactly. Yeah. Like they really fit their characters.
They do. They really do.
Like even the bad American remake or re-edit when we get to that, the voices weren't great, but like they could have been a lot worse than they were. I was kind of surprised that I'm not gonna say it was good quality or anything, worth, praising, but the voices they weren't as bad as I thought they would be.
Well, you can be the more optimistic one. I'll be the negative one on this one.
Fair enough.
I thought it was a very significant downgrade.
Oh, I'm definitely saying it's definitely worse than the original, but I'm just saying it's not like I was expecting, I guess, even worse than what we got.
Maybe I had too high of expectations because I thought it was awful.
Oh, okay, fair enough. It's definitely not praiseworthy. I'll give you that.
It's probably because I watched them so close together and I got used to these voices that it just magnified how bad, especially like Mole. I
It's
mean, we should wait until we actually get
yeah,
to
yeah,
that one,
yeah,
but
yeah. Hmm.
I thought it was not good.
Yeah. No, it's definitely noticeable, definitely.
Well, with Mole's Christmas, this adapts, I think, chapter five of the book, and only chapter five. This takes place after they've left Badger's house in the middle of winter. They add some stuff. Like, this is very padded. Like, so much of this, for all of these, it's very abridged, but
Mhm.
somewhat padded in places. But this is the worst for padding. They add a whole
Definitely.
bunch of stuff that's not in the book.
There's the two weasels that are keep chasing them around
Yeah, they're
for some
not in the
reason.
book.
Mhm.
It's weird what all they decided they had to add to this. I think they really just wanted a Christmas special. And it's like, yes, Christmas is in the book, but it's not as big of a section as you might need for a special, I guess. So they felt like they had to pad it out with all this random stuff. I don't know.
No, no, you're definitely right. It was they tried their best to fit that 30-minute mark, and it
Yeah,
felt a lot longer than 30 minutes.
it did, definitely. But it starts in a human village, which there are humans in The Wind and the Willows, but they mainly take place in the Toad sections. So this was a little strange. I think some of this, like maybe sneaking through the town, might have been from the book, but they added like the scenes with the little girl and her mother talking about getting ready for Christmas. And then they added an animal village with this rabbit, and there was a pheasant, which I don't think is in the book, and weasels and a fox, and the fox is hunting the pheasant. I don't think that was at all in the book. And then you never see any of these characters again.
Nah, they're just there for the runtime.
Yeah. And you have Rat and Bull talking about having a nice visit with Badger. And like that is technically what happened, but this happened after they got lost in the woods and Mole got injured. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like they were just having a nice Christmas visit with Badger.
Yeah, it's a recuperation.
Yeah. And then you get the part from the book where Mole gets homesick And then, like you said, they've added these weasels, and these weasels were not from the book. In the book, Mole smells his home, gets homesick, convinces Rat to help him find his home. But here you've got these weasels following them, talking about robbing them.
And they never notice that they're following them either.
Yeah, it's very strange. Like I don't feel like this added anything good to this at all.
I think it was supposed to just be comedic relief,
I suppose, but I didn't
but it's really
laugh.
bad comedic relief.
And then you also get an added bit where Mole keeps going into the wrong holes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is not in the book. And all of this is interspersed with weasel shenanigans. It's weird. And then they actually do find his real home, which is from the book.
Mhm.
They clean it up, get a meal together, and then interrupted by the field mice carolers. But instead of singing the song from the book, they sing Ding Dong Merrily on High for some reason.
These they call them wassailing mice, right, in the book.
I don't remember, but I've got the book right here. I could flip to that passage and chat.
There we go. Professor Jonathan's ready. I think that's a book I need to buy. I need to own that one. The Willows. That'd be nice to have.
Well, if you want a good one, I recommend the one illustrated by Robert Ingpen, Ingpen. I think it's out of print, but you can find it pretty easily on eBay. That's the version that I bought, and I really like it. I love the illustrations.
And it's not a bridge, right? It's the whole thing.
As far as I know, it's the whole thing.
Yeah. Because I know in the musical, the recent musical from like 2016 or so, there's a song called Wassailing Mice. So that's what made me think that maybe these are the same characters, and if they're from the book.
Well, they would be the same characters, but I don't see them called wassailing mice. They're just
Okay, so maybe
called
that's
the
just
field mice or the singers.
Okay, maybe that's just the title of the song then.
It must be.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read Wood in the Willows, but it's a good one.
It is, yeah.
Until you get to the random chapter about Pan.
Sarah loves that chapter.
What the heck?
It is very strange.
Yes.
But yeah, with the carolers are in the book, but they've added a bunch of stuff with the carolers that are not in the book. Like they invite them in for food, but he's been gone all year, so he has nothing. So Rat sends one of the mice to the shops for food. And then there's a scene where a little mouse has to go to the bathroom. I don't know. It's more added shenanigans to pad the runtime.
I think that's the gist of Mole's Christmas.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Like, I can see why we never had this one at the library. I doubt this probably got a VHS release. Well, I don't know. You said it's been exported to 200 something countries, so maybe someone put it on VHS.
I found a VHS on eBay, so it was put on VHS. I don't think it's ever been on DVD.
I get why.
But yeah, after the feast with the mice, they leave. Mole and Rat sit by the fire, and that's the end.
Yeah, that's Mole's Christmas. I mean, there's not much I could say about it. Just what stands out for me a lot is those random weasels that are trying to steal from Rat and Mole, and the Rat and Mole being oblivious to them, and yeah. And that's not good if that's the only thing that's standing out to me about that special.
Yeah, it's such a bizarre addition. It really, like, even if they had made all of these specials into a full feature, I don't think they lose much by cutting most of this. I think they could still keep most of the stuff that was from the book, but like at least half of this is stuff that they threw in for padding the runtime. You could cut it and lose nothing.
Definitely. You could cut it and insert it into the Adventures of Mole, and it would still fit.
Basically, yeah.
Because the Adventure of Moles is kind of, I guess, you could call it a prequel to the Adventures of Toad.
Yeah, well, the Adventures of Mole covers the first 4 chapters of the book, and then the Adventures of Toad covers chapter 6 on, with skipping over another chapter. Well, 2 chapters. Yeah, 2 chapters, because there are 2 other chapters that don't really add anything to the whole story.
Well, one is Pan. What's the other one?
Rat is visited by the sea rat, and he wants to go.
Oh, yeah. A sea rat. That could be a cool character if you do him right.
So far, I have not seen that adapted in any
Me either.
version that I've watched. I think it is alluded to in the version that I grew up with, but the whole chapter is not included.
Okay.
Like I think they make it more. I mean, I did record this a few months ago with Sarah, but so I haven't seen it in a few months, but I think it was a dream sequence. I don't think it was like an actual thing that happened.
I feel Pan would be more like a dream sequence.
They included Pan in that version too.
No, wow.
That one was actually the one I grew up with so far is still my favorite. It's very, very faithful to the book.
Is that the it's like motion, not stop motion kind of.
No, that one was from 83. The one I grew up with was from 95. It was made around the same time as this one, but it was a
And
British production.
well, this one's British too, but this one has like a green frog, right? Green toad.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen the covers. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that one's really good. I recommend it.
Mm. When I was looking up different versions of Wind in the Willows, one thing I didn't really realize is there've only been two Wind in the Willows adaptations that have been to theaters. One was Disney's, like, Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, and the other was the Wind in the Willows with the Monty Python gang with Terry Jones and
Hmm.
all of them. I didn't realize that because, like you said, there's a lot of adaptation of these, but they're mostly like TV adaptations or direct to video or something. So it's kind of interesting. There's only been two theatrical ones.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised because like even there's the Rankin Bass version, which I would have assumed would have been a theatrical version, but I guess it wasn't.
Yeah, that was probably in the same vein as like Rudolph, I'm guessing. Like on TV, I mean.
Well, it was longer than that, so
Well,
it
yeah,
wasn't like a short special, but I guess it was a TV special.
it's like a TV movie. Yeah.
Yeah, a TV movie.
Mm. I think it's about time we get a new a new theatrical into the Willows.
I keep hearing that people want to. The
Hmm.
like a few years ago, Guillermo del Toro had talked like he'd
Yeah.
been approached by Disney, but then Disney wanted to modernize it, and he didn't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, they wanted him to like ride a skateboard and say stuff like radical dude and Guillermo Soares like it's been a pleasure working with you. And he was
Or
like,
not working with you.
yeah, which I totally don't blame him.
Yeah. No, the sometimes modernizing things works, but I don't know that that's a good direction to go with Wind in the Willows. I feel
Yeah.
like the time and setting of the Wind in the Willows
Mhm.
is very important to the story.
I feel there are some things that are like you say, like the time and setting that the book or whatever takes place in is important, and to keep it that way is like it's like kind of like the meat of the story is based on that. So
Hmm.
modernizing it would ruin it.
Yeah. I feel like Guillermo del Toro could have done something, but he would have had to work really, really hard. And I don't even know if he would have even been able to make something as good as you would have expected Guillermo del Toro to make.
Two things I would like to see is like I mentioned already, the Wind in the Willows musical, which I absolutely love. I would love to see a film version of that. That'd be cool. Or two, I would love to see a motion capture Wind in the Willows. I think that would be really cool looking as well.
I guess if it's done better than other motion capture things in the past have
Hmm.
been. There have been some motion capture things that have been good, but it's usually in the context of a larger production. The movies that I've seen that are all motion capture, the only one that's even come close to looking good is Tintin.
That's what I'm thinking of too.
When I think of motion capture, I think of like Mars Needs Moms.
Oh, okay, no, no,
That-
I never think of
and
that.
even like the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol, which is weirdly one of the most faithful adaptations. I don't love the look of it because of the motion capture.
Well, that's why I think motion capture, especially for that, because they're humans, it looks a little off. Like Tintin, I
That's
think works
true.
because it's a graphic novel, so they could play with how the character looks, so it actually fits. But like, I feel one of the Willows would then be anthropomorphic animals. I think that could have a cool look about them.
That is a good point. This makes a better case for a motion capture film than something with all humans.
Yeah, yeah, because it's not like the One of the Willows are animal characters that on all fours and all that. They're actually anthropomorphic,
Yeah.
and they, like you said, they work alongside humans, and
Hmm.
so I feel it could work.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have done well. We saw what happened with cats, but
I still haven't seen Cats.
oh, then keep it that way.
Oh, I will not keep it that way. It's going to be on the podcast someday. I just need to actually do it.
You heard it here
But
first.
my cousin Sasha, who has never done a podcast with me, grew up with the original Cats. She absolutely loved. There was a VHS
Mhm.
she watched to death. So I really want to do a podcast with her talking about that original Cats. I don't think she has any interest in seeing the new one, but Nikki, Trivial Theater, she loves talking about bad movies. So if I do the original Cats with Sasha, then I will do the remake with Nikki. So I do want to do Cats one day.
The
I
original one, if we're talking about the 1998 filmed stage version one, that's good. The remake, that's uh that's just bad.
I've heard. I'm
Yes.
actually kind of looking forward to seeing it because of how bizarre it looks.
Yeah. It's not even just the looks, it's just like what they do with the story. Like, I mean, we'll go on a tangent here, but like Cats Cats itself doesn't really have a plot. It has a very bare minimum basic plot just to hold the story together. But really, it's just about one cat coming on stage and singing about themselves and then going off, and then another one doing the same thing until the end of the show. But then with the remake, they try to make like a plot out of it and make a bad guy and like and it just doesn't work. But hey, maybe you'll like it.
I think I will enjoy watching it. I don't know if I will like it as a whole,
Mhm.
but I'm still looking forward to seeing just how much of a train wreck it is.
It'll be one of those that you enjoyed and I didn't, and because I have a good number on you that I enjoyed and you didn't. So we'll
Maybe.
we'll it evens out.
Yeah.
But yeah, when in the Willows motion capture, I'd love to see that.
Well, let's move on to The Adventures of Mole.
Yeah, this is one that like I said, I had borrowed from the library, but I don't think I've seen it. Maybe no more than twice. Definitely not thrice. I don't even know if I did it twice. It might have just been once, but I remember just being overall bored with this one compared to the Adventures of Toad, so that's why I didn't bother watching it much. But like you said, it covers a good chunk of the beginning chapters of the book and introduces us to, you know, Mole and Rat, and also, they all in all these versions they have the same voices, which, like we've said, are really good voices. Like they fit the characters.
Hmm. I haven't been able to find much behind the scenes stuff on these. Like these are very obscure.
Yeah, these are very hard to find info on. Like I was looking as well. Like this is something like I'd love to like interview someone who worked on this, and that way we'd actually get more info.
Yeah, yeah. I would really like to know the thought process of making this into two specials instead of just making a movie. Like obviously they went back and made a movie out of these specials, but like why didn't they start with a movie? Especially with the cast that they have. You've got big names in the UK. Like you have a good cast. Why not make this a full-on movie?
The only thing I could think of is maybe budget, but like you said, they already have like the cast definitely ain't cheap. But I don't know.
I, and maybe it's because they were used to making, for lack of a better term, bargain bin movies that they just were going in that direction with this by default. I don't know.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess.
I suppose.
And remember, this is like when Hugh Laurie still isn't as big and isn't a big name yet as he will be in the future. Like he's probably just most famous for his work as Stephen Fry on Blackadder and Jeeves and Wooster at this time, I'm assuming, and Fry and Laurie.
Maybe it's because I've seen him for so many years in those roles, but it feels like those should be big enough that he would be
Well,
a big star.
fair enough,
But
fair
maybe
enough.
not. I don't know. I guess House is what grew him into fame over here.
Yeah,
But I grew up with PBS, so I grew up with all the British stuff.
that is very true. Yeah, Jeeves and Wooster was from 1990 to 1993, so yeah, that predates this. Blackadder was the 80s, 83, 89, so that also predates. Okay, yeah, you
Hmm.
may you may have a point. Fry and Laurie was also 89 to 95, so
Well, they also got Peter Davidson, who was a huge name from Doctor Who. Like,
He's one of the doctors, right?
yeah, he's the fifth
Mhm.
Doctor.
Okay.
This is a British production, so they were obviously going after bigger. Like, Doctor Who isn't like a massive international hit or anything, and at the time it would have been mostly a big thing in the UK, and also Doctor Who was done. I think it ended the year I was born, so it probably had been off the air for like 9 years at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know.
And Richard Briers and Paul Eddington are two big sitcom names in the UK as well. So yeah, so you're right. There are four big names here.
Maybe this was the people who were they hadn't been in something for a little while, so they were, I don't know, getting people that weren't too hard to get.
I guess. It's like you said, this came out the same, like around the same time as the other British adaptation that you grew up with. And I don't know what the cast of that is, but would you say this cast is more bigger than the cast of the one you grew up with, or is that one bigger?
Let me pull up the cast.
Oh, Peter Davison's daughter actually married David Tennant. Interesting.
Hmm. And his daughter plays someone who is called the Doctor's daughter in Doctor Who. She was in one episode as sort of a clone of the Doctor, but called the Doctor's daughter.
And who was the doctor at that time? That was David Tennant.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the fifth Doctor's daughter became the 10th Doctor's clone daughter and then married the 10th Doctor.
nice.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, this does have a pretty big cast too.
Okay.
You have live action segments starring Vanessa Redgrave,
Oh wow, that is big.
and then the voice cast is Alan Bennett as Mole, Michael Palin as Rat, Michael Gambon as Badger, Rick Mayall as Toad, and then you've got a few big-ish names as some of the smaller characters. James Villiers, I don't know how you pronounce that, as Magistrate, Emma Chambers as the jailer's daughter, Judy Cornwell as the barge woman,
Mm.
and then I'm not sure who Anne Reitel is, but they play a bunch of people.
Okay, nice.
So I would say it's probably a maybe on par, the
Yeah,
two casts.
that's what I was about to say. It looks around similar, at least for the main four.
Hmm.
There's no like Brad Pitt or anything,
No.
or Laurence Olivier's.
The
Michael Keaton.
biggest name is probably Vanessa Redgrave.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
she's mainly just there as the narrator. She does have like a live action role, but I'm sure they shot that in 2 hours.
Nice. I have to see this one day.
It's still my favorite. Like, I've still got a couple more to watch, but I can't imagine that the others are going to beat this one. Partly because I think it's good, and partly because this is my nostalgic one.
Yeah, this one. We all have our own.
Hmm. Yeah, anyways, getting into the
Anyways,
story of the adventures of Mole. It starts pretty true to the book with the spring cleaning scene. It also has a weird Disney knockoff sounding song.
oh yeah, I forgot about this.
All of the music in these are very forgettable.
Yeah.
You get like a flavor of the era,
Mhm.
and that's all I remember. It's just a flavor of the era with the music. There's no memorable lyrics. If I
Yeah.
I didn't write anything down, but like listening to the lyrics back when I watched it originally, it was very generic. Like
Yeah, I don't doubt that, dude.
they needed some lyrics. They went with the first draft. They just wanted a song and they didn't care how good it was. But yeah, it starts with the spring cleaning, but everything in these, I think I mentioned before, is very abridged.
Mhm.
So they didn't seem to make it very clear that he had spent all morning working and was really tired when he went outside. The way they framed it, it seemed like he just started working and then gave up immediately.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. It was just spring. Did start doing a little something and then left and ran out,
Yeah,
skipping in the part in the forest.
yeah, that's not how it happened in the book.
What? You mean that this is an adaptation? Wow.
And then they actually included the rabbit at the toll road with his onion sauce exchange.
Oh yeah.
And then he passes by some mice children that I don't think were in the book, but I was like, were those supposed to be the mice that were in the Christmas special? I did not go back and rewatch the Christmas special to find out. But they made a
Yeah, I don't
special point
remember.
to point out these mice children. So I was like, did they feel like they had to include them because they put them in the Christmas special?
I think they're just there to say good morning, Mr. Mole, and that was it.
maybe. Yeah. And then you've got the scene where he meets Rat and they go boating and go on a picnic. And it all seemed pretty accurate to the book. Abridged, but accurate enough.
And then Mola is like Mola as a character is like, part of him is curious and all that, but then part of him is like just taking over, like, let me row the boat, and then he destroys everything, and then he gets into remorse about what he's done, and it's just like you caused this problem in the first place.
He's very impulsive. It
Mhm.
like they do that is accurate to his character in the book. It also almost seems like a contradiction because he's like such a quiet, meek seeming person, but then he'll like have a fit of madness and want to do something so badly that he doesn't care what he has to do what he wants to do.
Yeah, it's not like Toad. Toad was like constantly in a state
Yeah,
of madness.
yeah,
Mole can get triggered, and when he gets triggered, something gonna be destroyed.
yeah.
And good old Rat has the that old British personality of being cheerful and taking things as they come.
Hmm.
There's probably a word for that, but I can't think of it now.
He's sort of the voice of reason.
Yeah,
Like he can have his moments too, and I think Badger is the ultimate voice of reason.
he's the wise.
But at least
Hmm.
as far as it goes between Mole and Rat, Rat is the voice of reason between the two of them.
Both down, hands down. And then we even meet Otter for like one scene, right?
Yeah, and he is in the book here. I'm glad
Hmm.
that they included him because not all the versions that I've seen so far include Otter or even include him here.
I think in the musical, they changed it to a woman, Mrs. Otter, but I think she has a bit of a part in the musical, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. One of these days I need to do the musical. I don't think I will get to it for this series, but if I do, I have too many plans for next year, so I don't know if I'll get to it next year, but I will get back to Wind in the Willows. So that will be one of the first ones that I do, because that one is one that I've wanted to see.
Well, if you do it in 2026 and you need someone, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. You also have a couple of characters in here with all of the picnic rowing shenanigans. These two, like I thought of them as ducks, and I thought that they added them as characters, but then I was flipping through the book, and there's like one line in the book about a couple of moorhens sniggering about Mole's bedraggled appearance. So I'm
Oh, okay,
wondering if
okay.
that's supposed to be like they saw that line and was like, let's turn these into two gossipy characters.
It wouldn't surprise me.
And then there's like this montage of Mole swimming with the mice children, which is
Mhm.
not from the book. And there's like this whole very 90s-esque sounding musical number that it's just like this is another Disney knockoff thing.
They really want to push the idea of these mouse children being important,
And they're not.
and they're
Like
not.
they just show up from time to time.
I guess they're the cute factor.
Maybe, but not cute enough to be memorable because I like until I started reading my notes, I completely forgot that they were in this movie. I was like, oh yeah, they did keep showing up, didn't they? And then after that, they have another song, which is what I thought that the song here was going to be when Rat makes up the Ducks song, which is from the book. There's a whole poem in the book when he's watching the ducks. And it's one of those things I always find it interesting to see how each version interprets this song because so far it seems like most of the versions do want to use this song in some way. It's always different music, but it's just interesting to see how each version handles it.
Yeah, when we get to the Mr. Toad song, I'll mention something there too.
Then they go visit Toad, and this is where he proposes the road trip with his horse-drawn carriage, which is basically an early 1900s RV.
Yeah. Toad doesn't appear much in this special, but he's introduced here.
Yeah. They do keep that pretty close to the book because in the
Hmm.
first four chapters, Toad is up until the road trip, Toad is more mentioned than anything.
Hmm.
And then he kind of disappears after he goes crazy. But yeah, they go on this road trip. It's pretty close to the book, even down to the horse complaining that he's not being considered in anything.
Hmm.
And then, of course, they're run off the road by a motor car, and Toad becomes obsessed.
Motomania, to quote the Disney version.
And then we leave Toad again for a while, and we go on to Mole wanting to go meet Badger. Rat doesn't want to go yet, so Mole sets out on his own when Rat's asleep.
Oh, I forgot. That's what happens now. Okay, yeah.
And this was also mostly accurate to the book, but also quite abridged. And I feel like they omitted like the most iconic part of this scene, probably partly because it's in the version that I grew up with, but also it's explicitly mentioned in the book that there's this whistling that he keeps hearing in the woods, which makes this scene in all the versions that I've seen, except for this one, like the creepiest scene in the story because he's going through these dark woods and he hears this creepy whistling around him, which I think is just the stoats and weasels whistling.
Mhm.
It's not like whistling a tune, it's just like animals whistling. It's like a creepy squeaking whistling noise, but they don't have that in this version. I don't know if they thought that was too scary for little kids or what.
So then it just looks like Mole did another impulsive thing and just left Rat and went traversing through the forest, hoping to find Badger.
Something like that, yeah.
Then he gets injured and hides in like a cave or something, right under a hole.
I think it's a hole under a tree, but
Yeah,
yeah, he has to be rescued. Rat finds him eventually, and then
good
he
old
gets
Rat.
injured again, tripping over Badger's door scraper.
And they have an argument about the doormat or something, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yeah, I don't remember how exactly that went.
Yeah, but it was something that triggered Mole again. And
Well, in the book, and I think in this version and most versions, Mole trips over the door scraper and then gets mad that Rat is excited about this because Rat recognizes that this means that someone lives here and it's probably Badger's house. But Mole doesn't get that and just gets mad about it. But yes, this is Badger's. He invites them in. They have dinner and they update him on Toad. Apparently, he's now gone through several motor cars and has been in and out of the hospital, which I don't remember. Like, that is in the book. I had to look it up, but I don't remember that ever being something specifically pointed out in other versions. Like, he's been in the hospital multiple times.
I didn't notice that either.
So they make plans to go visit him in the spring and
Take matters in their own hands.
take matters into their own hands, get him
What's the
out of this
word?
madness.
What's the word when like someone's addicted to something and you step into
An
uh
intervention.
intervention? That's what I'm looking for.
That's
It's an
basically what they're planning. They don't use that
literally, yeah.
term, but that's
Mhm.
basically what they're planning. So they go to bed, and then the next morning, there are two of the creepiest, scariest looking hedgehog children I've ever seen. They they sound adorable, but they look atrocious. Like who designed these characters?
Mhm. Yeah, I don't remember them actually.
They look like aliens. Maybe they're only creepy looking to me, but they look terrible. They sound very cute. They are
Hmm.
adorable children voices, but yeah, I do not like the design. And then Otter also shows up.
Oh
He
yeah,
tells them that everyone was worried because they had disappeared, so we went out to find them.
because this is probably the longest that Rat's ever been away from his house or the riverbank in particularly.
Probably, yeah. I guess that would be why everyone back home was worried and sent Otter looking for him.
Yeah.
But that's where the adventures of Mole end, about the point where the Christmas special would start.
Mhm.
And it seems like they're going to have another obligatory 90s song over the end credits. But then just before the credits roll, there's another scene with another motor car accident and a crazed toad being loaded into an ambulance. And then it actually ends with a weird Beatles sounding song. And it was such a bizarre song choice. I was like,
Mhm.
where did this come from? This doesn't fit with the movie at all.
I guess just British. That's probably it.
I suppose. It's a weird choice.
So like, I would prefer to watch The Adventures of Mole over Mole's Christmas, but
Oh, me too.
I still would rather not watch it.
Well, I suppose probably me as well. Okay, well, I think we're going to stop here for now. Next time we will talk about The Adventures of Toad, which is the second half of the book. And again, I still question why they made two TV specials instead of one movie, but I guess we'll talk about that when we get to the movie that they actually turned this into. But until we get to The Adventures of Toad, do you want to let people know where they can find you if they would like more from you?
Sure. Thanks again for having me on, as always. You guys can check me out at my blogs. I have the Animation Commendation at theanimationcommendation.com. I post like animated film reviews, top 13 lists, and I host Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Animation Edition game show there. I also have my live action Disney project at myliveactiondisneyproject.com. I've tried to review every theatrically released Disney film ever made, and I'm still doing that over 10 years now, so you could check me out there. Thanks.
Okay, well, we will see you next week for the Adventures of Toad. Thanks for listening to Every Version Ever. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My link tree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.